Dave Palumbo with an RxMuscle news update. You heard it already, I'm sure. Roelly Winklaar rules the day at the Arnold Australia 2018. Big upset on that Arnold Classic stage. A lot of people thought it was going to be a rematch between William Bonac and Dexter Jackson, the ageless wonder as they call it. But it became the Battle of the Netherlands, really, where Roelly Winklaar and William Bonac went mano a mano. Bonac, who was coming off the Arnold Classic victory from last week, the big one with a lot of big paycheck as well. A lot of people thought it was a foregone conclusion that Bonac would come in here and win. And you know what? He was damn good. Bonac had some terrific conditioning from behind. I mean, he was flawless. For some reason, his abdominal cavity was looking kind of a little blurred, like maybe he was holding some water. Now, this can happen when you travel, long distances. I had mentioned this previously that, 24-hour flights are not fun. And things go wrong, and you hold water, and, it's a big trip. It's not like you're taking a 2 to 3 or 4 hour flight. We're talking, you're on an airplane for 24 hours. And so that's traumatic to the body. And I don't know if that's what happened. I mean, it doesn't look like anything other than, like I said, just the water just redistributed itself incorrectly in Bonac's body, at least just from the front. From the back, he was the clear champion, I thought. His conditioning was way better than Roelly Winklaar's. But let's talk about Winklaar. What won this show for him? Well, first of all, he's the biggest freak on stage. I mean, no one's got more mass than Roelly Winklaar. I mean, no one in that lineup was even close to him, in terms of just sheer density, size, cartoonish roundness. His symmetry has improved an awful lot, I think, because of that extra size. To me, he could have been a little tighter. And I'm really getting, getting specific here because he was really good. But I think he could have been better. I think he was good enough to win here. And once again, a lot of times these shows, when you do multiple shows after each other, it's the guy who's just the best guy out there. And that's really what it was. Roelly Winklaar had the mass, the size, good enough conditioning, and he overwhelmed this lineup because the other guys that maybe quality-wise who could have been better than him, Dexter and Bonac, just weren't at their best. Obviously, Rhoda not in this lineup, as we know, he was out. Dennis Wolf, really a shell of himself at this point still. Conditioning, terrific. Size, not there yet. I think it's going to take another year for Dennis Wolf to really get into this lineup. He has to settle for that last call-out, which I know has to be a major blow for him. But let's get back to what we were talking about, which was Roelly Winklaar here. Roelly Winklaar is so dominant at this show because of his sheer mass on stage that, you just can't overlook that. I mean, after all, it's a bodybuilding show. And Roelly brought it. And some of his, his side chest shot, his back double bicep, even that front double is just too much for these guys to handle. He just overwhelms them. And congratulations to Roelly because that was a huge win for him. I think it's probably the biggest win of his career, I would think. Now, let's talk about Dexter Jackson. What happened? Why didn't Dexter win this show? If Bonac's off, you figure Dexter pops right in there. And I got news for you. I thought Dexter was better at this show, conditioning-wise, than he was at the USA. His stomach issues were not as pronounced. He didn't have as much distension. But his left bicep was blurred, and it almost looked like it was bruised. Now, I talked to Don Long, who's been training him for these past couple shows, and asked him what happened, because a lot of people are, making speculation. I don't like speculation. I like to go to the source. Don said that, Dexter pulled a muscle in or what he thought he pulled a muscle in his bicep. Now, Jay Cutler said the same thing when he lost that Olympia, his last Olympia, or I should say his second to last Olympia, to Phil Heath. He also had that bruised, I think it was the left arm as well. And it turned out it was torn. I have a feeling Dexter tore some fibers in there, whether it be at the whole muscle belly itself or just some fibers. There's definitely a tear there. It looks like it. There's a tremendous amount of swelling. When you tear a muscle, you can take all the diuretics you want. You're not getting that swelling out of there. And it looks like the muscle is down in size a little bit on that side. And, there's definitely a blurring. And, there is what I can tell. Dexter's obviously got black skin, but you can see there's a little reddish tinge to it. So there's definitely possibly some black and bluing there going on. And, that throws your body off. The surprising thing was the rest of them look pretty damn good. Usually when you tear a muscle, it can affect the rest of your body. You do hold water. But, Dexter was still really good in this lineup. He just had that noticeable deficit. And that's the first real chink in the armor we've ever seen from Dexter. You know, the guy doesn't really have any injuries, you know, that you can never say, oh, this is here or that's out of place there. Dexter's always kind of perfect. So this little injury, you know, might be indicative of, you know, the fact that he's aging a little bit and, you know, he's more vulnerable now. Obviously, the travel, once again, doesn't help. You're trying to get a quick workout in off the plane, and sometimes, you know, things go wrong. You know, you're dehydrated. So Dexter's third place is really, you know, to me, it's a victory in his book, because here he is, the oldest guy in the lineup. You know, he comes in here, you know, once again, people can't believe how good this guy looks. And with an injury like that, he still manages to pull off third place. So congratulations on that. For Dexter, fourth place, Lukas Osladil. I've mentioned him before. This guy has got the best conditioning of anyone on stage all the time, and he's dangerous because of that. He doesn't have the most size, but he has conditioning. When guys come in off, which this show, a lot of guys were not at their best shape, Lukas Osladil rises up the rankings. You know, he's like an Andreas Munzer. Munzer would beat guys that were better than him because he'd out-condition them. Darren Charles did the same thing for years, you know, because he was always conditioned. So congratulations to Lukas Osladil. Once again, bringing that terrific conditioning. He does some unusual posing on stage. I know that the fans love that. He shows off his crazy glutes, you know, he kind of gyrates them and flexes them. But conditioning looks great on stage. And, you know, Chris Aceto always says it's a gluten ham show sometimes, you know, and that's where Lukas rises above the rest of the guys in that lineup. Now, Hide Yamagishi was trained by Milo Sharshev. Once again, stays in that open category. He did it at the Arnold USA, where he could have gotten down to the 212. He didn't want to. Stays in here. Definitely bigger. Definitely in good condition. Milos did whatever Milos promised to do for Hide, he did. But he almost looks, I don't know, dare I say, a little like weirdly watery. You know, I almost see it in his face. Usually Hide's face is really drawn and sucked out. He looks a little like almost bloated in the face, even though his body is kind of really nasty hard. He still has a little bit of like a fluid retention-y look. I don't know, but like I said, you can't deny the fact that he's got a lot more muscle on his body and that he's got, you know, a lot more fullness to him. So it's a trade-off. I personally, I like seeing Hide, you know, huge, you know, but his problem is he's still in between that 212 and that open class, so he's not beating these monsters, you know. It's very hard for him to beat these big guys. Is it a good idea for him to stay in the open or go down to the 212? That's a personal decision for Hide to make. But I think that the fifth place placing here today has got to be a victory for Hide, because to make top 5 at an Arnold Classic in the open division is tremendous for him, especially considering, you know, he won the Arnold, you know, 212 a couple years ago. So, and he's been competing in that 212 division. One of the guys that impressed me the most in the lineup was 6th place finisher Luke Sandoe from the UK. This guy's got tons of mass. He's got good conditioning on stage. I think he's an up-and-coming guy. He's a little shorter than some of these other guys, but he's got a tremendous amount of wow factor to him. I know Chris Aceto's working with him now. I thought this was the best he ever looked. I think 6th place I thought he could have been 4th place, you know, to be honest with you. But I think a 6th place here is a tremendous accolade for him, because he's still a young guy. He's placed now at an Arnold Classic in a very tough lineup. And I think that moving forward now into the future, he's definitely a guy that you got to keep your eye on. So I think he did what he had to do here. He made an impression on the judges. And I think sometimes those shows, you have to sacrifice yourself for some of these shows where you're just looking to make your mark. Now the judges got you in their scope, their telescope eyes. When they see you on stage, they're going to go to you. And I think that was a huge obstacle that he overcame. I think he solved his conditioning problem working with Chris. And I think that if he continues to make quality changes to his physique over the next couple of years, he's going to be a guy we're going to be seeing winning a couple of shows and, you know, being top 5 for certain in these Arnold Classics. So congratulations to Luke. Also have to mention Kevin Levrone, who placed second to last, unfortunately. I think there was a lot of speculation, how would Kevin look? You know, is he going to be better? He took almost 2 years or a year and a half to come back after that last Olympia he did, to see if he could bring up his legs again. And a lot of people, once again, he hadn't been showing them off, which is never a good sign. But we've seen a lot of upper body stuff of him in tank tops and sleeveless shirts, and he looked pretty damn good. You know, he's impressive as hell. But with the clothes off, the conditioning wasn't there for Kevin. I think he tried to come in a little too big. Also, I don't think it would have helped his placing very much because the legs are really down, especially that right leg. It's really down in size. I don't know if that's the leg that he has the knee injury on, but he obviously cannot train his legs well. We see a lot of leg pressing stuff, Kevin, a lot of knee wraps really tight. He's obviously having trouble working those legs. He's probably in pain. We'll get him on we'll get him on live with hopefully at least this week or the following week to get the full story from Kevin. But I think what Kevin did, I think accomplished what he really wanted to accomplish, which was he's got a huge social media following now. I'm sure his supplement company in Europe over there is doing really well because of all the notoriety he's garnished as on the comeback trail. And I think I think the experiment was a success. I don't think we'll see Kevin Levrone on another stage ever again. And he has nothing left to prove. But once again, he made himself a household name, and I think that from a marketing perspective, it was a good move by Kevin. I think we'll see Kevin downsize quite a bit. He'll stay in shape as he always does, but I don't think we're going to see a huge Kevin Levrone walking around anymore. There's no sense in that. But from a fan perspective, it's a little disappointing to see Kevin not at his best. It is what it is. I think it was a good choice to do the Australia show rather than the Arnold USA. Kind of like took the pressure off of him a little bit. I'm sure he's doing very well in Australia at the working the expo and with all the fans there. And after all, the Australian fans wanted to see one last look at Kevin Levrone, and they got it. And so from that perspective, I think the show is a huge success. I think Tony Doherty did an amazing job with Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously promoting this thing, putting it together. I know the athletes are treated top-notch by Tony Doherty out there in Melbourne. He caters to them A++. They get food, they get put up in beautiful, lodgings. They get shuttled off to his gym if they need it. Tony is for the athletes. He always has been. That's how the show started as the Australia Grand Prix years ago. It morphed obviously into the Arnold Australia. I think it's an A++ show now. And I think that a lot of athletes should really consider doing that show or applying to do that show in the future because the Australian, countryside loves bodybuilding, and I think you can make some great contacts over there. So congratulations to all the athletes. Roelly Winklaar, huge win. Candice Lewis defending her title there, obviously making it 2 in a row. The Arnold USA last week, winning this one. She's got to be, a main challenger against Sydney Gillen at the Olympia coming up in September. I mean, she beat her twice here, so that's a huge feather in her cap. Will she be the next Olympia champ in figure? Who the hell knows? She just might be, That was super exciting, I'm sure. The figure division has really proven to be very, very exciting with the changing of champions and the girls at the top being so spectacular. Once again, hats off to them. Angelica Teixeira, what can we say? She's the most dominant girl in bikini right now. She wins here again. She won last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, at the USA. She's the Olympia champ. She's cleaning up. She's winning everything. I don't think that she can be beat this year unless she doesn't show up at the show. So congratulations to all our champions here at the Arnold Schwarzenegger Show. For now, though, I'm Dave Palumbo with another RxMuscle News Update.